Cool, so my camera doesn't detect my face for the autofocus if I'm wearing a face mask, so good to know, I guess. I work in retail and I thought it might be interesting to just talk about what it's like at the moment working in a shop during a pandemic. I work in a shop, not gonna say which shop I work for, but the company has treated us very well. I cannot speak for everyone's experiences for all the different retail branches that there are and all the different companies, but the one I work for have been very good to us. So I'm just gonna tell you what it's been like. So basically, we shut right back before the official UK lockdown began, which I believe was the 26th of March, or was it the 23rd? Sort of towards the end of March, but we shut about a week beforehand as the company decided that it was the safest thing to do. I really appreciate that. They didn't have to close when they did. They chose to voluntarily, and I really appreciated that at the time, and I still do. They could have laid the staff off. They could have put us into the furlough scheme, so we'd be getting most of our salary paid for by the government. But no, they decided to continue to pay us, and not just our minimum contract hours. They actually paid us our average hours that we'd worked averaged out over the previous 12 weeks, which, because of when lockdown began, that ran into the Christmas period. So it was actually more than I was typically earning at that point anyway, because I had fewer shifts. So that was really nice. I didn't have to worry about money during lockdown. We could all quite safely stay at home, didn't have to go places, and that was part of their logic, that if we were paid properly, then we wouldn't need to put ourselves in danger, and then when the shop was able to reopen, we would all be healthy and available to start working again. But then of course we reopened, and it's been interesting. It's been very varied. The last few months have been just strange, for everybody, but when we first opened, it was completely nobody was in the shopping centre. It was so quiet. We'd serve a handful of customers in a day. I think my first shift back, I didn't process a single transaction. I did some other jobs around the shop, but I just happened to never get to the till first when a customer needed to be served. So yeah, it was very quiet. And it was like that for weeks, for absolute weeks. And then the school holidays happened and everyone started coming back out, and it's good in a way, but also it was kind of scary. I'm glad that most people, I'm gonna say most people, are sensible, but the unfortunate thing with when you're out and about is that all the people who aren't taking it seriously are far more likely to be going outside and going shopping and not really caring and not thinking about it properly. The majority of people who were taking it seriously, which is the majority of the population, were at home. So it always felt so frustrating, hardly anyone was wearing a mask, people weren't keeping distant, people weren't using the hand sanitizer at the shop. It was stressful, but I had to keep reminding myself that it probably wasn't that reflective of the population as a whole, but I can see why rates are rising again, is kind of what I mean. The kinds of people who are out and about was most definitely spreading it. If they came into contact, they were gonna spread it around. Which is frustrating, because we're now at the point where things are starting to close up again, and it's just ugh. There's a couple of different kinds of people that you would encounter. A particular interaction that I really hated was the person who would come in, sometimes just taking off a mask that they'd been given elsewhere, sometimes without a mask, and they'd see that you were wearing a mask, and they would make a little comment about how awful it is wearing a mask, and expecting you to agree, oh, don't you just hate having to wear it? And my answer was always no, I don't. It's uncomfortable at first. If you're not used to wearing a mask, you're very aware of the fact that you're wearing a mask. But when you're wearing it several times a week for a 5-hour shift, you just stop noticing. It's not that bad. When it was really hot during the heat wave, sure, it was quite uncomfortable, but most of the time it's fine. And people expecting you to join in with hating wearing the mask was just really irritating to me. And then they get all defensive, and I can't have a proper debate because I am at work and, customer service, I can't offend you. So it's really annoying. And similarly to those, there's a shop across from us in the shopping centre where you have to wear a mask to enter. That was their entire policy from when they reopened. You had to wear a mask. That's now in force everywhere anyway, but at the time it was pretty much just this one shop that you had to wear a mask to go into. So they'd hand out masks on the door to anyone who didn't have one. And so often people would come to us from just being in that shop. They'd have the mask, either holding it or wearing it, and they'd ask, do they have to wear a mask in the shop? We'd have to say, no, you don't have to, but it is encouraged, you know, if you have one. And they go, oh great, and just take the mask off. It's so frustrating. Like, you have the mask. You're not going to be in the shop for long, just wear the mask, please. One upside of how things are is that we're only allowed a certain number of customers in the shop at any one time. Our shop is normally so busy. It is heaving, it is difficult to move around, it is stressful to be in as a customer. I used to avoid it before I worked there. And it's not a nice experience on a busy day like a Saturday or close to Christmas or during school holidays. So it was so nice to be like, no, you have to wait outside. Get in the queue, please. That's not what I would say, don't worry. I enjoyed the power, if I'm entirely honest. There's something very fun of someone trying to walk in past a long line of people, try and just walk into the shop and just stopping them and asking them to join the queue and wait their turn. So nice. Haven't had any confrontations with anyone over that. Maybe I would enjoy it less if someone had got argumentative with me. But so far it's been fine. And most people were very apologetic and trying to pretend like they hadn't noticed the queue that they've just walked past. It's a really weird situation working in retail at the moment, and it's not fun. Like, not that it was necessarily always fun before, but I've enjoyed my job, and I still do. But it's just got a new level of stress to it. I'm paranoid when I'm at work, and I don't like that. The extra mental drain of trying to keep distant from people, keeping an eye on what kids have just shoved their face into whilst looking at something, or just smeared their sticky hands all over. Like there was always an element of mental drain in my job anyway, just because there's so many different things you need to be aware of all the time anyway. But adding on to that, it can be a little stressful, and there's then just the worry that you're going to take all the measures you can and it still won't be enough and you're still going to catch it. And as far as I'm aware, I haven't had it. I've never shown symptoms, so I've not had a test, and I have no idea if I potentially was carrying it and just didn't show symptoms. And that's stressful too. So yeah, it's a difficult situation, and it's not going away anytime soon. It seems to be getting worse yet again. So yeah. So my conclusion here pretty much is wear a mask, be kind to each other, look out for people. Please be nice to retail staff at the moment. They're very stressed. And if you can, go get a flu vaccination, take the strain off the NHS. You don't need to be catching another virus. Like, I've got mine booked for next week, so see if you can do that. If you qualify for it on the NHS, it is free. If not, it is £13. 13. It's not very expensive, and it's worth doing if you can. I'd love to wear this mask into work, but I think I might scare customers.